internet connection is good. Hello, everyone. We are live. I believe we are live. Okay. Yes, we are. We have tonight, this is podcast number 7, and how the whole numbering and everything came about. We can thank Miss Shelly Phillips for getting us started. So this is awesome. Right now tonight we have live with us Laura S. Shortridge, and she is here tonight to help us understand our mindset and how our mindset can determine how bright our light will be. So this is something really important. We would love to share all information with you. Please share with us where you're from tonight. I'm broadcasting from Kyle, Texas. And Laura, where are you from tonight?
I'm from Albion, New York, which is Western New York, Buffalo area.
All right. So she's in Western New York. And so we've got ourselves spanned across the United States thus far. So whenever you show up, make sure that you show up shining and ready to go. All right, Laura, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to have a wonderful time tonight. Laura, tell us a little bit about yourself so we can just jump on in to figure out what our mindset is all about.
Okay, well, first I have to say that I actually was raised in Texas. So even though I've lived in New York for 30 years, I'm still Texan. And as I especially talk with you, I'm going to start talking like this because it just will come. I can't help it. So it's all good. So like I said, I grew up in Texas. In my book, I'm going to go ahead and just show the title of it. It's called Unipreneur: How to Live Your Passion in a House Full of Dream Killers. And I show that because the subtitle kind of says a lot about my journey in the past 10 years. Like I said, I grew up in Texas, a wonderful childhood, got married as a teenager and to my sweetheart that I met at college, and very happy for about 18 years. And then we were faithful church going. We were a Christian family. And then he chose not to continue in with the faith, and it really messed up our family big time. And I had to, it plunged me into despair for a number of years because I didn't know how to navigate the negative stuff. And so the first part of my book it's just in the introduction where it tells all that about where I came from. But I came to a place where I knew that I was bigger and better than what I was doing. You know, I had, at the time that this happened, I had 5 kids. I have 6 now. But this time, it was a really, really critical, dark time in my life where I felt like I was being both mom and dad, because when my husband lost his faith, he went on journeys and spiritual journeys and whatever. And I was left here with the 5 kids and not knowing if he would come back. And it was just a really dark time. And I love your with the darkness and the light, that your theme. My theme is light as well. I sign all my things love and light. That's how I sign my letters. I have been for the past few years. So I love your book, by the way. And I just got this one yesterday. But I have, growing up, I felt the light. You know, I grew up in light, and I missed it. I knew when it was gone, and I didn't know how to get it back. And so through a process of learning that I'm in control of what's up here. You know, nobody else can control that, but I didn't used to know that. And that's the whole thing about mindset is no matter who is around you, no matter what is around you, you control what you think, you control what you say, you control how you act. You know, somebody can, quote, force you to do some things outwardly, but they can't control what's in the inside. And so and the very first change in me when I started realizing that, well, first my personal experiences, I turned to God, because I had, during that very dark period, I had felt like I was not good enough. You know, I can't be both mom and dad. I'm not good enough. I can't, the kids, some of them don't want to go to church like dad, and what do I do? It was just a dark time. And, but I finally chose to give it over to him and said, what do I do? What do you want me to do? And so I started receiving strength from the inside through prayer, through scriptures, through the people at church, and that I love. And anyway, through that time, I also, one of my daughters, or is our third daughter, our second daughter, I'm sorry, fifth kid, she came home with she started all of a sudden changing, like blossoming. She had been real shy before, and she started like, what's going on? And I found out she had been babysitting for a friend of ours that her friend was the lady was in a business, and they would go to conferences, and my daughter would babysit her kids at the hotel. While they did the conference, my daughter would go swimming and stuff in the pool with them. And come to find out that she had said, what are you doing? She ended up joining the business with him. It was a multi-level marketing. And so I said, Amy, what are you doing? What is, you're like glowing. What's the deal? And so she shared it with me, and she was scared too. It was funny. She was afraid to. So she brought her friend over, and said, So she was telling me about it. And I said, well, sure, I'll do it. I'd love to do it. Because number one, I'd already used the products. I love the products. And then number two, it was like, I want to support my daughter. And the big thing that really came out of that, though, and the reason I'm sharing this is because it was the mindset that is what really changed my life. The finances were wonderful, and that helped me actually to start into real estate investing, which is my second company. And then through that, now I don't have to work. And I work all the time. I just for myself. And so now I'm author and speaker and coach and doing what I absolutely love doing. But it all started with realizing I can change what's up here. Major change in my life. Yes. And along with that came, I talk about it in the book, but do you want me to just share a couple things?
Sure.
Okay. Well, the first three chapters, I have it divided. I call it a dream seed. I think we all have dream seeds. Okay. It's my belief that every single person has unique divine gifts to give the world, that only we can give the world. And, it's not like the world will fall apart if we don't give them, but it will be so much richer and more beautiful and more expansive the more people that give their gifts. And so once I realized that, it's like, I want to give my gift. These things that are in me are there for a reason. It's not selfish to want to grow and expand. And I really wanted to write, and I had so many things I wanted to do, but I thought, well, they're so much fun. They can't be good because they're too much fun. But it was, I finally realized, no, that's a God-given gift. I need to write, I need to get. And so, anyway, this book, I used the dream seed analogy, and I divide it into three things. The first one is preparation, and that's inward germination. And that's where the mindset comes. The second one is outward expression. And the third one is onward expansion. But what I wanted to talk about was the first part, which was the inward germination. I'm not going to talk about the first part, which is clarifying your vision. You have to know what you want and what your dream seed is. But the second one is brighten your attitude. And especially and also tweak your perspective is the third one. Those two things are needed so much today. I don't care what business you're in. I don't care what your religion is or non-religion. I don't care what color your skin is. It doesn't matter. All of us can control what's in our mind. All of us can. And we can choose to be offended or not. We can choose to let others bring us down or not. We can choose to lift others or not. It's all choice. And once we realize the power that we as individuals have, our world just becomes more expansive and more beautiful and more light-filled. That's where I come from. And then the second part was tweak your perspective. And actually, do you mind if I share just a little section from this?
Sure.
From that? Okay. I should have written it down. When I wrote this, our sixth daughter was in... what do you call local college? I forgot what you call community college. Sorry. She was in community college. She didn't have a car at the time. And so I drove her there and used their library to write my book. It was perfect because I was finding it too distracting at home and I wanted to focus. And I said, I'll drive you. And so I ended up doing that the whole semester, got the book done. But I had this one little experience that happened there, and I hope I can find it. I may not be able to find it because there's so much in here. I may just have to tell it.
So while you're looking for that, I think what Laura really says is something very powerful, especially for anyone that has experienced any kind of trials, ups and downs. Raise your hand who's out there. Oh, you need a few more hands. We've all experienced that. And in the mindset that we have, if we, especially with our past guests, we've talked about what we bring into, into our situations. If things happen to us as a child, as a youth, we have things that we still need to process through and work through. If our mindset is in a negative or in a fixed place where we're not really accepting growth, when trials and things come, you can tell right off the bat people that are going to struggle more possibly than others, because they look at all of the can'ts and all of the what ifs, and it starts to build the anxiety. It starts to build even more. And there are true challenges out there. I don't want to diminish anyone's experience. But what I do want to say and support what Laura is talking about, how in our mind can we shift to look at something? Some people might take that to mean, for example, in a lot of the women that I work with, they've just left or come from extreme abuse, verbal, mental, financial, sometimes a combination of all of that. And some people think, well, what do you mean? I'm going to sit in that situation and think, oh, this is the best life ever. Is that what you're saying to me? Absolutely not. But what we are saying is there's hope out there, and we can get you there with the right mindset. Once you're in the place of freedom, the whole world opens up. So never shut out the hope, no matter what the circumstances are. Laura, were you able to find that passage?
I was, and actually, as I was listening to you, I love your title of, pinpoints of light, because I think sometimes that's all we can see. Sometimes it's just one little pinpoint of light. But if that's what we'll focus on, that's what will start bringing the rest of the light in. Yes. So and as you were talking also, I have a disclaimer on the back of my book, and it's very appropriate to what you said. It said, this book is not about how to leave your family or divorce your spouse in order to follow your dreams. It is about gaining the courage and know how to pursue your passion while at the same time nurturing deep relationships with your dreamers. And in addition, in here, I also say, if you are in an abusive situation, that's not what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about dream killer, that's not what I'm talking about. If you're not safe, you do what you can to get out and get safe. This is for when you get into a physically safe place where you're not in that abusive situation. Right. So, yeah, this was just a little short one. It's on, it happened at the school parking lot. It says, a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting in a school parking lot waiting for our youngest daughter. I was using the time to check my email when a woman pulled up a couple of spaces away. I wondered why she didn't park next to me, and then I noticed that her car was crooked. Oh, I thought, she must have come in at a funny angle and didn't want to scratch my car. I went back to my email when another car pulled in on the other side of her. Then another and another. They were all askew. I looked at the car on the other side of me, and I had a sudden realization. They aren't parked crooked. I am. So sometimes when I go on to say, I pulled and I straightened out, but it says, from my initial point of view, everyone else was parked cattywampus. It took considering a different perspective to get myself in alignment. Sometimes that just happens, and it doesn't happen on purpose. Sometimes, actually, I see a lot of people that they have a very closed, narrow view of things, and if anybody on the outside, they're wrong, Right. And so we need to step back and consider, could I be wrong, or could I tweak things, or what does it look like from this direction? And sometimes it's really eye-opening. And it's not just a one-time thing. To me, it's a lifelong thing. I'm always looking at different perspectives. And there are some things that are very core value to me that won't change. For example, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. That's not going to change. I hope it never changes in me, because that's my core. But different aspects of different things, or how I perceive things, or how I used to be kind of judgmental, about other people as far as church goes. And now I'm not. It's like I've been able to pull back and say, this is what's right for me. I'm not responsible for anybody else. I mean, the kids when they were little, but when they're adults, which they are, the youngest is 22 now, so that they are responsible for themselves. But that's a real relief to me now because I'm not supposed to be the judge. And once I realized, it's like, oh, I don't, I ever what anybody does now. If I see somebody, like if I see somebody in an abusive situation, that's different. There are things that are different, and steps need to be taken. There's, I'm not saying everything's okay, but what I'm saying is there are things that some things matter, some things don't. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that we had one of our.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say one of our sons, our second son, he had a thing with hair. He just likes his hair different, And back in the day, the guys didn't wear long hair unless they were troublemakers or whatever. And he had some really weird hair. I mean, well, they're not weird now, but they were weird 30 years ago. He's 37 now. So I was like, oh my God, 36. Anyway, I shouldn't say how old he is because, anyway, he's not watching anyway. But that's okay. We're good. But anyway, I had to step back and say, okay, he's a really good kid. Am I going to judge him on his hair? Well, other people might, but big deal. It's hair, So it's kind of that same thing. That's a little, kind of an unimportant thing. But some people actually do judge other people by what they look like. And that doesn't really matter. It's not up to me to judge what another person wears or what, as long as they keep covered. I mean, I don't really want to join a nudist colony. I wouldn't be very comfortable with that, but others can do that. They go do their thing. But, anyway, you can tell I like to have fun. Humor's another big key. And my thing of being happy is even in the darkest hour. That's actually when I knew I was in the darkest time, is I realized I hadn't laughed, and I would laugh with my kids, and little, those were the moments or when I would laugh with my kids where I was happy. But then when I was by myself, it was like just this, this heaviness. But anyway, so there's a lot of humor in my book too.
Yes, and the pieces of humor really help to create a mindset where you can see more light, you can see more positivity, you can see actually, you know what, if in the big scheme of things, this is not going to really matter too much. I know many of you have seen over the weekend the things I neglected in my children's rooms, right? And it was just everywhere. And I thought I can come in here stomping crazy mad and, get to work and you should try and and become this lecturer, or I can, join with them, try it together. And the way I started it with my one daughter is a perspective and a mind shift, because if I start off with, we need to, so she's one of my deaf, and I'm like, if we need to, I'm out. She's like, oh, need to? Not me. So I started off with, we're going to play a game, and we're going to play this game to see who's going to be the winner. She is very competent. She's like, oh, a winning game? Me? I'm first. I'm going to win. I'm like, all right. So we kind of started it as that game idea. Now, was she there the whole time? No, she definitely took a little more breaks than I had hoped for. But I gently went down and reminded her, you only have 2 points in the game. Do you want more points? Oh, yeah. So up she'd go again. And a point was, she picked up a teddy bear. She straightened up some, whatever it was. And we gathered that all together, threw out the trash, picked it all up. And of course, they started to get so excited when they could see the floor. And they were like, wow, we can play on the floor again. And I'm like, yeah, it's amazing when you get it clean. But it was the mind shift in showing that this was going to be a game. Now, we didn't have little rabbits or birds show up singing and, carting off the blankets or anything. No Snow White and 7 dwarves appeared. But still, it was a lot more fun and more engaging because I asked them and I gave them some choices throughout the cleaning, because I knew the one thing that my children love are Legos. So I thought we better build a Lego building station. And that was super important. Oh, I've lost Laura. Well, we're just going to keep forging on to see if we can make sure, this is still up and going, but maybe she will pop back in here. The point is with the whole concept of our mindset, we want to be able to show and support so many people, so many things. And with a positive switch, when we can see and feel that, that way we know there's just so much more that can actually happen. When you start off in anything negative, it really starts to deplete what the possibilities are. Look, she's back. I knew she'd be back. Yes, the cleaning was a little crazy. And so, Laura, share with us something from the book that you feel would really impact someone's light tonight.
Okay. I'm going to read. Do you mean like reading something? I went.
Read or share, either way.
Just share. Let me tell you something about the book. There are. It's written as if I'm talking to you, and if you know anything about personalities, I'm a high I, which means I woo woo. So there's deep stuff. There's fluff. There's you'll laugh, you'll cry, But I think what I would like to share actually is one of the biggest things that helped me through everything, and it still helps me to this day, is learning personality types and love languages. There's so much information out there that if we can understand other people better, because especially right now, I mean, even though my book deals with family, in our world family, if you want to look at it that way, there is so much lack of communication, real communication. And if we learn to listen, and that's a big key thing in here, it's used in, I have these action steps at the end of each chapter where you build yourself, and then you also build your relationship with your dream killer. And so in those, one of the really important things is to listen, learn to listen, really listen, and not listen wanting to answer and rebut something, but really, truly listen and change your perspective. Look at it from their other person's perspective and say, is there some truth in what they're saying? Okay, what could I gain from this? What not gain is in, but gain is in what knowledge could I gain, or how can I help our communication be better? And it starts with listening. And so I think the more people who listen with the intent to hear and to understand where other people are coming from, the more you know what? I am going to read something else because I have another story just came to me, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Because Tammy this was really important.
Yeah, go ahead and find it. And Tammy says, she's got it right there. Thank you so much, Tammy and Arlene, for jumping in and really adding to all of this tonight. We really appreciate it. Laura, go ahead.
Tammy has a really good question. She says, would love to know how to respond versus react when in a relationship. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share this story. This will kind of answer that. Okay, remember I'm in Buffalo, near Buffalo. Well, it says that in here. Okay, on a sloppy winter morning a year or two ago, I was driving to the airport in Buffalo, New York to catch a flight to Dallas, Texas. It takes just under an hour on a clear day, but that particular morning, the roads were slushy and a light snow fell. I had allowed extra time, but halfway into the trip, I realized I had to go to the bathroom. Have you ever had the experience when you don't want to take up time to stop, but if you don't, you'll soon be in agony? Ugh. Instead of waiting to get to the airport and having to haul my luggage with me, I opted to visit a familiar supermarket chain whose restrooms were at the front of the building and almost always clean. Parking as close as I could, I trudged through the dirty snow and dashed to the empty women's restroom. There were 2 stalls, one handicapped and one regular. Soggy footsteps led to both. With the accumulation of snow outside, there was no way to keep the floor clean and dry, no matter how often the store clerks checked or the staff checked. It was Western New York in January. That's life. I hurried as quickly as I could without sliding on the slippery spots. I automatically went to the regular stall, but there was nowhere to hang my purse and coat. The hook had broken off. I quickly darted to the handicap stall, hung my things on the door, and did my duty. Still rushing, I put my coat on in the stall so I wouldn't have to set it on the wet floor and then wash my hands. I slung my purse over my shoulder to head for the sink. When I opened the stall door, I was surprised to see a woman about my age with a walker glaring at me. If her eyes were guns, I would have been riddled with bullets. I mean, she was livid. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone was waiting, I offered, even though she couldn't have been waiting more than a minute, probably less. She stood firm in her location by the sink, like a hawk ready to rip its prey. I had to move by her to get to the sink. How dare you, she screeched. How dare you use the handicapped bathroom? There's nothing wrong with you. That was just the opening of her tirade. While I proceeded to soap up my hands, she literally screamed at me, telling me what a horrible person I was to add suffering to a poor woman like her, that I had no heart, that I never thought of anyone but myself. A variety of emotions quickly surged through me: surprise, hurt, embarrassment, guilt, anger, pity. A few years earlier, I would have immediately reacted with a deluge of tears and melted to the floor to join the puddles of former snow. But tears were no longer my first response. Here, Tammy, here's our response rather than a reaction. Several possible retorts zipped through my head as I continued to wash my hands, not looking at her. Good thing I don't curse. Part of me wanted to say, look, lady, if you needed to use the bathroom so bad, why are you wasting your time yelling at me? A remnant of juvenility tempted me to face her with crossed eyes and stick out my tongue and walk out without saying a word. I considered the option to yell back, using her own beginning words. How dare you? How dare you judge me? You don't know me at all. And how do you know that I don't have some kind of handicap that you can't see? Maybe I have an ostomy bag or IBS. You don't know. You should look in the mirror when you call out those rude labels. And I admit, a sarcastic response swirled in my head too. Yeah, no, sweetheart, I waited all morning in this store just to get ahead of you in the handicap stall, just because I wanted to make you mad. That's what I live for, to make you miserable. And I succeeded. Yeah. Well, the biggest part of me wanted to explain myself about the hook on the door being broken, that I rarely use a handicap stall, and that I really am a nice person. But she was so riled up that it would take some time, and there was no guarantee she would even listen to me. I didn't want to miss my flight. So I didn't say any of those things. Instead, I tried to look at the situation from her perspective. Yes, she was choosing at that moment to have a chip on her shoulder and be nasty about it. But perhaps she was having a particularly rough morning. A hefty medical bill might be looming over her. Maybe her 18-year-old Cocker Spaniel was going to be put to sleep that very day. Was it possible that a side effect of her meds was irritability? Maybe from her point of view, the world was a mean, nasty, unfair place, and the only way she knew how to react to it was to mirror it. I had no idea her true standpoint, and I didn't have time to find out. And ultimately, it didn't matter. I was not responsible for her. I was responsible for me. So as I dried my hands, I looked her in the eyes with compassion. It startled her enough that she quit yapping. Ma'am, I'm truly sorry I inconvenienced you. It wasn't intentional, but at this point, there's nothing I can do but apologize. Please don't let it ruin your day. With that, I left. Once back in the car, I prayed for her. No one venting such vile words and harboring such contempt and harsh judgment can have a perspective which allows for joy and expansion. She was keeping herself in a cage. I sincerely hope she didn't hang on to the ill will and didn't let it ruin her day. And I didn't let it ruin mine. So I think that tells a lot about responding and reacting, because my reactions, I had, like I said, I had a lot of varied reactions that wouldn't have been very kind. But I chose to respond. And 5 years before that, I would not have been able to. I didn't know how. I was unskilled. And I think that's a lot of people just don't know how. They're unskilled in how to communicate in a kind way. They're conditioned to react instead of respond. And so that's really, that's my goal in life, is to help people learn to respond with care and tenderness and thought and love and light, and not to just knee-jerk react to everything.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. When we can respond back with love and with a perspective and even with an apology, I mean, sure, it was wrong, but it was convenient. And we can go through the list. The list doesn't matter. If someone is hurt and their perspective is the reality, if that's what they have, then we have to help them to a degree to know that I hear you, I see you, I'm feeling what you're feeling, and I'm sorry. And sometimes that's all they need, is to be heard. Maybe she's never heard anywhere. We just don't know. So to respond with love is something really important. So thank you so much, Laura. Hold up that book again. Everyone, she has been nominated for an Author Academy Award. We need to do some voting for her. Now, which page number are you on for the votes?
It's page 2, category 2.
Okay.
It's business and investing.
Business and investing advice. So page 2, we'll put the link down below for that, so you can vote for her. We have voting going up through midnight on July the 31st. So we're going to ask for people to do those voting and everything like that. Thank you guys so much for all of your questions, support. Thank you, Tanea. Is that how you would say that?
Tiana.
Tiana, thank you so much for coming. Oh, Tammy, thank you for voting. Look at that. Tammy says she's voted. Wonderful. Everyone, make sure that your mindset is in such a way that it is brightening your light, because when your light is bright, it's going to amplify out to so many others. Thank you, everyone, for showing up and showing up shining. Great questions. I'll put all the links in below, and thank you so much. Laura, do you want to say any parting words before we head out?
Just thank you so much for this opportunity to share, because I truly want to shine my light, and I know you want to shine yours. And like you said, the more that come together, the brighter the light gets. And I just want to see this wave of light go over the earth. We need light. We need light right now.
We definitely do. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you guys tomorrow, 7:30 Central, for, again, another highlight video from Beacons of Light. We'll see you.